The champagne glass slipped from my fingers and shattered against the marble floor of our Georgetown mansion. Tiny shards scattered like broken promises across the pristine white surface. I stared at my phone screen, unable to breathe, unable to think. The photo was crystal clear. My husband of 20 years, Senator David Harrison, kissing a woman who wasn't me. Not just any woman. Jessica Winters, his 28-year-old press secretary. The same woman who had sat at our dinner table just last week, calling me Mrs. Harrison with that sweet, innocent smile. The same woman who had helped me plan our anniversary party just 3 months ago. My name is Catherine Harrison, and until this moment, I thought I was living the perfect life. I was wrong. The photo had been sent from an unknown number with a simple message. Thought you should know. More where this came from. My hands trembled as I scrolled through the attachments. Photo after photo revealed the truth I had been blind to. David and Jessica at a restaurant I had never been to. David and Jessica entering a hotel room. David and Jessica walking hand in hand through a park while I was visiting my sick mother in Boston. Each image felt like a dagger through my heart. 20 years of marriage. 20 years of supporting his political career. 20 years of being the perfect senator's wife. I had given up my law practice to stand beside him. I had smiled through countless campaign events, fundraisers, and political dinners. I had raised our daughter Emma practically single-handedly while he climbed the ladder of power. And this was how he repaid me. The sound of the front door opening made me quickly delete the messages and kick the broken glass under the antique cabinet. David, Catherine, I'm home. His voice echoed through the foyer, cheerful and completely normal, as if he hadn't just destroyed our entire life together. I pressed my back against the wall, trying to steady my breathing. How long had this been going on? How many lies had he told me? How many times had he looked me in the eyes and lied? David appeared in the doorway of our living room, loosening his navy blue tie, the same tie I had picked out for him that morning. David, you're quiet tonight. Everything okay? He walked over and kissed my cheek, the same casual gesture he had performed thousands of times. But now it felt like poison against my skin. I forced myself to smile, the same practiced smile I had perfected over 2 decades of political life. Catherine, just tired, long day. David nodded, already distracted as he checked his phone. David, I have to go back to the office tonight. Emergency strategy meeting about the infrastructure bill. The lie rolled off his tongue so easily. How many emergency meetings had there been? How many times had I believed him without question? Catherine, of course, I'll save you some dinner. David, don't wait up. It might be a late night. He grabbed his briefcase and headed for the door, pausing only to plant another meaningless kiss on my forehead. The door closed behind him with a soft click, leaving me alone with my shattered world. I walked to the window and watched his black sedan disappear down the tree-lined street, going to another emergency meeting with his young mistress. The phone in my hand buzzed with another message from the unknown number. If you want to know the whole truth, meet me at Cafe Luna tomorrow at 2 p.m. Corner table. I stared at the message until the words blurred together. Someone wanted to help me. Someone else knew about David's lies. But could I trust a stranger? Did I have a choice? That night, I lay awake in our king-sized bed, staring at the ceiling. David came home at nearly 2 in the morning, slipping into bed like a ghost. His cologne smelled different, sweeter, more floral, the scent of another woman. I pretended to sleep as he settled beside me, but every fiber of my being screamed with betrayal. The next day dragged by like torture. I went through the motions of my daily routine. Coffee with the neighborhood wives who knew nothing of my pain. A charity luncheon where I smiled and made small talk about upcoming galas. Grocery shopping for a family dinner that felt like an elaborate charade. At exactly 2 o'clock, I walked into Cafe Luna. The small coffee shop was tucked away in a quiet corner of Dupont Circle, far from the political haunts where I might be recognized. I spotted the corner table immediately. A woman in her 30s sat alone, nervously stirring her coffee. She looked up as I approached, and I saw recognition flash in her eyes. Woman, Mrs. Harrison. Catherine, yes. She gestured to the chair across from her. Woman, please, sit. My name is Rachel Martinez. I'm a journalist with the Washington Herald. My blood ran cold. A journalist? This was a trap. I started to stand, but she quickly raised her hand. Rachel, wait, please. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here because someone needs to stop him. Catherine, stop who? Rachel, your husband. And I think you're the only one who can do it. She pulled out a manila folder and slid it across the table. Rachel, these photos are just the beginning. David Harrison has been using his political influence to cover up affairs, manipulate staff members, and abuse his power for years. I opened the folder with shaking hands. Inside were documents, emails, and more photographs, evidence of a pattern that went back years. Not just Jessica. There had been others. Many others. Rachel Sarah Chen, his former campaign manager. He had an affair with her in 2018, then fired her when she threatened to go public. She pointed to an email chain. Rachel Linda Rodriguez, a lobbyist. He promised her political favors in exchange for personal favors. My stomach turned as I read the explicit messages. Rachel and now Jessica Winters. But she's different. Catherine, different how? Rachel. She's documenting everything. She came to me because she wants out, but she's scared of what he might do to her career. I looked up from the folder, my mind reeling. Catherine, why are you telling me this? Rachel, because tomorrow night, Senator Harrison is announcing his candidacy for president at the Kennedy Center Gala. 500 of the most powerful people in Washington will be there. She leaned forward, her eyes intense. Rachel, it's the perfect opportunity to expose him, but it has to come from you, from his wife. No one else has the credibility to bring him down. I stared at her, the weight of her words sinking in. She was asking me to destroy my husband's career, to humiliate him in front of the entire political establishment, to end the life I had known for 20 years. But as I looked at the evidence spread across the table, I realized my life had already ended. The man I married was gone. Maybe he had never existed at all. Catherine, what exactly are you asking me to do? Rachel smiled grimly. Rachel, help me give Washington a night they'll never forget. That evening, I sat at our dining room table, picking at the salmon I had prepared for dinner. David was across from me, enthusiastically discussing his presidential announcement speech. David, the polling looks incredible. Catherine, we're ahead in every demographic that matters. He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. David, I couldn't have done any of this without you. You've been the perfect political wife. The perfect political wife. The perfect fool. Catherine, I'm proud of you, darling. The lie tasted bitter in my mouth. David, tomorrow night will be the culmination of everything we've worked for. Our moment. Our moment. He was right about that, though not in the way he imagined. David, Jessica did an amazing job organizing the event. That girl has real talent. My fork clattered against my plate. Of course she did. She had been organizing more than just political events. David, you should thank her tomorrow night. None of this would have been possible without her hard work. Catherine, I'll be sure to do that. I met Rachel at her office the next morning. The Washington Herald building buzzed with activity, reporters and editors rushing between desks, cluttered with coffee cups and stacks of papers. Rachel led me to a small conference room where Jessica Winters was waiting. The young woman looked nothing like the confident press secretary I had seen at political events. Her eyes were red-rimmed from crying, and her hands shook as she held a steaming mug of coffee. Jessica, Mrs. Harrison, I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Jessica, he told me you were getting divorced. He said you had agreed to wait until after the election to announce it. I studied her face, seeing genuine remorse. She was young, ambitious, and had been manipulated by a master. Catherine, How long has this been going on? Jessica, 8 months. It started during the campaign for the infrastructure bill. He said he needed someone who understood his vision. She laughed bitterly. Jessica, I thought I was special. I thought he loved me. Catherine, what changed your mind? Jessica, last week, I overheard him on the phone with someone. He was talking about getting rid of me after the presidential announcement. Said I was becoming too clingy and a liability. Her voice broke. Jessica, I realized I was just another conquest, another way for him to feel powerful. Rachel placed a small digital recorder on the table. Rachel, Jessica has agreed to wear a wire tonight, to get him on record admitting to the affairs and the cover-ups. Catherine, and then what? Rachel, then you take the stage and tell the world who David Harrison really is. That afternoon, I went to my favorite salon and had my hair and makeup done for what would likely be my last appearance as the senator's wife. I chose my outfit carefully. The red dress David had bought me for our anniversary. The pearls his mother had given me on our wedding day. The sapphire earrings he had presented me with when Emma graduated from college. If I was going to destroy him, I would do it wearing the symbols of our life together. At 7 o'clock, we arrived at the Kennedy Center. The building glowed against the Washington skyline, draped in red, white, and blue bunting. Photographers lined the entrance, their cameras flashing as political elite emerged from black town cars and limousines. David stepped out first, straightening his tuxedo jacket. He turned to help me from the car, and for a moment, I saw a flash of the young law student I had fallen in love with 20 years ago. Handsome, charming, full of dreams about changing the world. What had happened to that man? When had he become this stranger? David, you look beautiful tonight, Catherine. He kissed my cheek as cameras clicked around us. David, are you ready to become the First Lady? Catherine, I've been ready for 20 years. Another lie. The truth was, I was ready to become someone entirely different. The Kennedy Center's main hall was transformed into a political wonderland. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over tables draped in elegant linens. 500 of Washington's most powerful people mingled with cocktails, their conversations creating a low hum of ambition and influence. I recognized senators, congressmen, Supreme Court justices, and media moguls, the people who controlled the fate of our nation. And tonight, they would witness its future change forever. David worked the room like the seasoned politician he was. Handshakes, backslaps, whispered conversations about policy and politics. I followed behind him, playing my role perfectly. The supportive wife, the political partner, the woman who had sacrificed everything for his success. Across the room, I spotted Jessica near the stage, checking her microphone equipment. She caught my eye and nodded slightly. The wire was in place. Rachel stood near the back of the room, her press credentials giving her access to the most exclusive political event of the year. She raised her phone slightly, indicating she was ready to record. Everything was in position. At exactly 9 o'clock, the lights dimmed and David took the stage. The crowd quieted as he approached the podium, his presence commanding the attention of everyone in the room. David, my fellow Americans, tonight marks the beginning of a new chapter in our nation's history. His voice boomed through the sound system, confident and presidential. David, for the past 6 years, I have had the honor of serving you in the United States Senate, but tonight, I stand before you ready to take the next step. Applause filled the hall. David, tonight, I announce my candidacy for President of the United States. The crowd erupted in cheers and standing ovation. I remained seated, watching my husband bask in the adoration of his supporters. David, I could not have reached this moment without the love and support of my incredible wife, Catherine Harrison. The spotlight found me in the audience, and I managed to smile and wave. David, Catherine has been my partner, my advisor, and my strength for 20 years. She embodies the values that will guide my presidency. The irony was suffocating. David, when I am president, we will restore integrity to the White House. We will demand honesty from our leaders. We will hold ourselves to the highest moral standards. Integrity, honesty, moral standards. Each word was a dagger. As David continued his speech, I saw Jessica moving toward the stage. This was it, the moment of truth. Jessica approached the podium area, pretending to check sound equipment. She was close enough for the wire to pick up everything. David finished his speech to thunderous applause and stepped away from the podium. Jessica moved closer, intercepting him as he descended the stage steps. Jessica, Senator, that was an incredible speech. You must be so excited about the campaign. David, Jessica. Yes, this is what we've been working toward. He lowered his voice, but the wire caught every word. David, and you've been such an important part of making this happen in so many ways. Jessica, I hope I can continue to be important to you. David, of course, though we'll need to be more careful now. The media scrutiny will be intense. Jessica, what do you mean? David, I mean our special arrangement will need to become more discreet, at least until after the election. Jessica, and then what? David, then we'll see. A lot depends on how well you can keep quiet about certain things. The threat was clear, even wrapped in political doublespeak. Jessica, what if I don't want to keep quiet? David's voice turned cold. David, that would be a career-limiting decision. Don't you think? Jessica, are you threatening me? David, I'm simply pointing out reality. Who do you think people will believe, a respected senator or a young woman with obvious motivations to lie? I had heard enough. I stood from my table and began walking toward the stage. My heart pounded, but my steps were steady. 20 years of political training had taught me how to project confidence even when my world was crumbling. Rachel caught my eye and nodded. She had recorded the conversation. The evidence was captured. Now came the hard part. I approached the stage area where David was still talking with Jessica. Catherine, darling, they want you to say a few more words. David turned, his public smile instantly in place. David, of course, Jessica. We'll continue this conversation later. The threat hung in the air like smoke. I climbed the steps to the stage, feeling the weight of 500 pairs of eyes on me. David followed, assuming I was there to support his moment of triumph. How wrong he was. I took the microphone from the podium. Catherine, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for sharing this special evening with the Harrison family. Polite applause rippled through the crowd. Catherine, for 20 years, I have stood beside David Harrison as he climbed the ladder of political success. David smiled beside me, nodding proudly. Catherine, I have been the perfect political wife. I have smiled when I wanted to cry. I have stayed silent when I wanted to scream. The smile began to fade from David's face. Catherine, tonight, my husband announced his candidacy for president, promising integrity, honesty, and moral leadership. I paused, looking directly at David. Catherine, unfortunately, he has demonstrated none of those qualities in his personal life. Murmurs began to spread through the crowd. David stepped toward the microphone. David, Catherine, what are you doing? I moved away from him, keeping the microphone. Catherine, I'm telling the truth. David, something you seem to have forgotten how to do. The room fell deadly silent. Catherine, for the past 8 months, my husband has been having an affair with his press secretary, Jessica Winters. Gasps echoed through the hall. Cameras flashed as reporters scrambled to capture the moment. Catherine, but Jessica is not the first. There have been others, many others, all young women whose careers he could control or destroy. David lunged for the microphone. David, stop this. She's having a breakdown. But I was stronger than he expected. 20 years of pent-up rage gave me power I didn't know I possessed. Catherine, 10 minutes ago, you threatened Miss Winters. You told her that speaking out would be career-limiting. Those are the words of a predator, not a president. The crowd was in chaos now. Some people were standing. Others were shouting questions. Security guards moved toward the stage, but they seemed unsure of their role. Catherine, David Harrison has used his political power to manipulate vulnerable women. He has lied to the public, to his staff, and to his family. I looked out at the sea of shocked faces. Catherine, is this the kind of man you want as president? Someone who cannot keep the most basic promise. Someone who preys on the women who work for him. David grabbed my arm. David, enough. His mask of political charm had completely slipped. This was the real David Harrison. Angry, desperate, and dangerous. Catherine, let go of me, David. My voice carried through the microphone, and everyone in the room could see him gripping my arm. The image was devastating. A powerful man using force against his wife on live television. David released me as if I had burned him. David, ladies and gentlemen, my wife has been under tremendous stress. She's not well. The classic political deflection. Blame the woman. Question her sanity. Make her the problem. But I was ready for that move. Catherine, I have evidence. David, photographs, emails, witness testimony. I pulled out my phone and held it up. Catherine, including a recording of the conversation you just had with Jessica Winters, where you threatened her career if she spoke out about your affair. The color drained from his face. David, that's taken out of context. Catherine, really, let's let everyone decide for themselves. I connected my phone to the sound system. Jessica's voice filled the hall. What if I don't want to keep quiet? Then David's unmistakable voice, that would be a career-limiting decision. Don't you think? The silence that followed was deafening. 500 of the most powerful people in Washington sat in stunned silence. David Harrison, the man who had just announced his candidacy for president, stood exposed as a liar, a cheat, and a predator. Catherine, this is who you were about to support for president, a man who cannot be trusted with the most basic human relationships, let alone the most powerful office in the world. I set the microphone back on the podium and walked off the stage. My legs felt like water, but I forced myself to keep moving. Behind me, chaos erupted. Reporters shouted questions. Political supporters demanded explanations. Security guards tried to establish order, but it was too late. The damage was done. David Harrison's political career was over. Rachel intercepted me as I reached the back of the hall. Rachel, that was incredible. How do you feel? I looked back at the stage where David stood alone. His dreams of the presidency shattered around him. Catherine, I feel free. The next week was a media firestorm. David's presidential campaign collapsed before it could begin. The Senate Ethics Committee opened an investigation. Several more women came forward with their own stories of harassment and abuse. David resigned from the Senate in disgrace. I filed for divorce and moved into a small apartment in Alexandria. For the first time in 20 years, I was truly alone, and I had never felt more at peace. My daughter Emma called me from college. Emma, Mom, I saw everything on the news. Are you okay? Catherine, I'm better than okay, sweetheart. I'm finally being honest. Emma, I'm proud of you. It must have been so hard to keep all of that inside. Catherine. The hardest part was admitting to myself that I had been living a lie. Emma, what are you going to do now? I looked around my small apartment. It was nothing like the Georgetown mansion I had left behind, but it was mine. Every choice, every decision, every moment was truly my own. Catherine, I'm going to practice law again, help other women who have been betrayed and manipulated. Emma, that sounds perfect. Mom. Catherine and Emma, I want you to remember this. Never let anyone convince you to be smaller than you are. Never sacrifice your truth for someone else's comfort. Emma, I won't. Mom, I promise. 3 months later, I opened my own law practice. Harrison and Associates, specialized in representing women in high-profile divorce cases. My first client was Jessica Winters. The second was Sarah Chen. The third was Linda Rodriguez. Word spread quickly through Washington's network of political wives and professional women. I had become the lawyer they called when powerful men tried to destroy them. The woman who had taken down a senator and lived to tell about it. One evening, as I worked late in my new office, Rachel Martinez stopped by. Rachel, how does it feel to be Washington's most famous divorce attorney? Catherine, satisfying, really satisfying. Rachel, any regrets about that night? I thought about the question seriously. 20 years of marriage. 20 years of building a life that turned out to be built on lies. 20 years of supporting a man who betrayed everything I believed in. Catherine, my only regret is that I waited so long to find my voice. Rachel, what would you tell other women who might be in similar situations? Catherine, that the truth is always worth fighting for, that your dignity is not for sale, and that sometimes the only way to save yourself is to be willing to lose everything else. Today, as I write this story, David Harrison lives in obscurity. His political career destroyed, his reputation in ruins, his power gone. He occasionally appears on cable news shows as a cautionary tale about political scandals. I, on the other hand, have never been happier. I represent strong women who refuse to be silenced. I fight for justice in courtrooms across the country. I speak at conferences about domestic abuse and political corruption. Most importantly, I tell my truth. The truth that powerful men try to bury. The truth that shame and silence only protect the guilty. The truth that speaking out is not betrayal, it's survival. If you're listening to this story and recognizing yourself in my words, please know that you are not alone. You are not crazy. You are not the problem. Your truth matters. Your voice matters. You matter. Don't wait 20 years like I did. Don't let fear keep you silent. Don't let anyone convince you that protecting their reputation is more important than protecting your soul. The moment you decide to stop living someone else's lie is the moment your real life begins. It won't be easy. You might lose everything you thought you wanted, but you'll gain something infinitely more valuable. You'll gain yourself. If my story has moved you, if it has given you strength or hope or courage, please share it. Share it with the women in your life who need to hear that they are not alone. Share it with anyone who has ever felt trapped by someone else's lies. And if you have your own story of betrayal and redemption, I want to hear it. Your voice deserves to be heard. Your truth deserves to be told. Subscribe to hear more stories like mine. Stories of women who refuse to stay silent. Stories of courage in the face of betrayal. Stories that remind us all that the truth, no matter how painful, will always set us free. Because at the end of the day, we all deserve to live authentic lives. Lives built on truth, not lies. Lives filled with genuine love, not manipulation. Lives where our voices matter. Thank you for listening to my story. Now go out there and tell yours. The world is waiting to hear what you have to say.